What's up, everybody? Welcome to The Shift on YouTube. It's Francisco Rojas and more Baseball Hall of Fame talk. I did the contemporary ballot preview with Bonds, Clemens, Mattingly, and so on. And so you can check that out. I'll have a link to that in the description. But recently the normal Hall of Fame ballot was given out, and look, I'll be honest, man. I want to give you all my thoughts here. Just a short preview for the most part, and just kind of going through the ballot. Look, I'm always excited for the Hall of Fame. I'm always excited every single year to see every single ballot. But this year, man, can't say that it's a super stacked ballot. So just kind of some of my thoughts here on the ballot for the 2026 class. First thing that came to mind, man, weak ballot. Definitely a weak ballot. There's not look, there are definitely some big names on the ballot, like there are for the most part, like every year, and have been for the last 5 to 10 years with the steroid and PED era of Major League Baseball. So there's always going to be like the names, like we've had A-Rod for the last 4 or 5 years. We've had Manny Ramirez for the last decade. It's going to be his last year on here, but there's no one you're looking at this year and saying like, man, it's gonna be tough for this guy to get in because there's like 3 or 4 other guys that are shoo-ins. It's not there's no Ichiro, there's no like Jeter, there's no there's no guy on here where it's like, oh, easy slam dunk Hall of Famer. There's no Griffey, there's no slam dunk guy this year that where it's like, oh, he's on here. There's a couple of guys on here. No, there's none of that. But so the first thing that came to mind when I looked at this ballot, man, was that, oof, it is just a weak ballot. So that's the first thing. And just kind of some of my other thoughts here. Just being real. Like, there's no way you can tell me there's going to be more than 2 guys that are going to get in on this ballot. Like, realistically. You can sit here and tell me who you think should be in the Hall of Fame, and it seems every year, every day, you debate online with people about certain guys not being in the Hall of Fame or being in Cooperstown, and there's always going to be disagreements, and you're entitled to your own opinion, and that's part of the reason why I love, debating the Hall of Fame, is having your own opinion, and sports in general. But, like, objectively, you cannot tell me looking at this ballot, besides Carlos Beltran and Andruw Jones, there's no way there's going to be anybody else that's going to get in this year. Like, if what it's going to be this year, and this is what I think, just a couple of months before in January when the results get announced, like, it's going to be Carlos Beltran and Andruw Jones. I really don't think there's any debate for that. I mean, look, it's inevitable that Beltran's going to get in the Hall of Fame, and I think rightfully so. Andruw Jones, I think it's pretty inevitable, even just looking at next year's ballot too. Like, it's pretty inevitable. I think he's going to get in the Hall of Fame. He's pretty close the last couple of years. And so I think, I really do think, man, it's going to be Beltran, it's going to be Andruw Jones. And I think rightfully so for both. Rightfully so for both. Beltran had an all-around really, really good career. Andruw Jones was an incredible defensive center fielder and had good offensive numbers to go along with it. I think he deserves to be in. But that's about it. That's about it. And I think it being a weak ballot this year helps both of them. So, and maybe, there being 3 guys that got into the Hall of Fame last year, maybe it's what prevented Beltran from getting into the Hall. But for guys like Beltran and Jones, I think this year it's going to be those 2. So those 2 I think are going to be in the Hall this year. other players that I'm just curious about in general to see how they fare this year. Chase Utley, who I think is borderline. I feel like I go back and forth with Utley. I'm curious to see how he fares this year. Goes almost 30% in his first year on the ballot a couple of years ago. Last year, almost 40%. Again, not too much of a stacked ballot this year. How many votes can he get this year? I think it's interesting with Chase. K-Rod, Francisco Rodriguez, also kind of a polarizing one, just in a sense of Wagner gets in. Last year, Billy Wagner. What does it do for somebody like Francisco Rojas, or not me, Francisco Rodriguez, somebody that had a really good career, maybe didn't have the rate stats as elite as Wagner for the entirety of his career, but curious to see how Rodriguez does this year, and maybe even going forward with Wagner getting in last year. And somebody else, another Rodriguez, Alex Rodriguez. I don't know. I'm not really sure how much A-Rod could get going forward. You know, he's kind of hovered around, like mid-30s the last couple of years. I'm not really sure what's going to happen with A-Rod going forward. And I say that to say, just watch that Alex versus A-Rod documentary on HBO Max. You should watch it if you haven't watched it. And it was a good documentary. I don't know. I wonder how much that will factor into any voters that watched it or didn't watch it. Or we watched it and, I don't know, maybe their opinions change on them. So I'm not sure. I don't know. I watched the A-Rod documentary. I liked it. I would recommend it. Kind of shed some light on who he is as a person. So I don't know. A-Rod's an interesting one. And also, Manny Ramirez, his last year on the Hall of Fame ballot, is not getting in. Because he was docked for PEDs twice, suspended for PEDs twice, is not going to help you getting into the Hall of Fame. Let's be honest. But Manny Ramirez's last year on the ballot, I mean, it was amazing as a hitter he was, just not getting in. And then the last thing, haven't talked about any of the first year guys that are on this year. Gonna be real, like there's no one that jumped out to me at all. A lot of guys that had very good careers, but not Hall of Fame careers. Look, here at home in Philly, Cole Hamels, great Philly, not a Hall of Famer. Philly's a Hall of Famer, not a Hall of Famer. Edwin Encarnacion, great power hitting slugger, great player. Alex Gordon, World Series champ, great player on those Royals teams, not a Hall of Famer. Matt Kemp, was an elite player for some time, not a Hall of Famer. There's Nick Markakis, nice player. Daniel Murphy was one of the best hitters in baseball at one point. Hunter Pence was a great player for a while. None of those scream Hall. And you can't tell me that none of any of those names that are on the first time on the ballot are screaming Hall of Fame to you. But make your case. We'd love to hear your thoughts and your opinion. But just a short preview for the 2026 Hall of Fame class. We'll have more on this year's ballot in the next couple of months, so stay tuned on the channel and stay tuned for the pod, Apple, Spotify, all that good stuff. So that'll do it for me, and I'll talk to you guys soon.